Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon's Week 5 battle of the APA Evolution Season 1 Showdown League. We are taking on Shawnsters / Slippy Slurpy and the Galactic Greninjas this week in a really terrifying matchup. Now, if you didn't watch the team builder, we are bringing defensive sets up the wazoo. We have 2 Assault Vest users, and so we are going to try to be bulky and defensive to try to counter some of his incredible offensive presence. And you're going to see this battle, that is going to be the name of the game, is how do we counter his offensive pressure. So, right off the bat, he does bring the Espeon, which leads me to believe that despite him having 3 Defoggers right next to it, he probably doesn't have it. And I am going to try to get my Stealth Rocks up with my Druddigon on the Espeon if I can, and go from there. Late game, try to sweep with my Hawlucha. Same thing I talked about in the team builder, you guys would have seen it, but that is the plan this week, so we're gonna jump into it and click, I think I should click play down here and pause down here. I don't know, I'm maybe learning. So anyway, he's going to lead off with the Exploud as we are going to lead off with our Druddigon to try to get the Stealth Rocks up, and I am a little bit afraid of Choice Specs Boom Burst, but I did the calc and I do survive that, so we are good. We eat our berry, so we're back to a decent amount of health, and I figure let's just glare this thing, nullify the threat a little bit, as he goes out into his Espeon, and I am going to be able to click Stealth Rock no matter what, which was totally free at that point since I did outspeed him. Now right here, he clicks Reflect. Now, I think he forgot about Mold Breaker and he brought his Espeon in on the Stealth Rock, but I didn't forget about Mold Breaker. So Mold Breaker, Stealth Rock's going up. Then I was like, I'm going to click Glare. He can't kill me with anything. Even Dazzling Gleam doesn't OHKO me unless he starts Calm Minding, at which point getting this thing paralyzed is going to be incredibly useful. Watch him be synchronized. No, but he's spoilers. He actually is Magic Bounce. But he sets up a Reflect, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Screens, if you heard my team builder, Screens was the thing that destroyed me the most. I just could not. I have to play around these screens. And I was like, okay, Espeon's his screener. That's fine. We'll be okay. We'll glare it. We're just stalling out turns now. Figure out if he's Light Clay. We're going to go out into Incineroar here to try to take a Psychic type attack or even a Fairy type attack because we are Assault Vested and he gets fully paralyzed. So I was like, cool, that's a turn of Reflect gone. Let me just click Knockoff here. Really nothing wants to switch in on the Knockoff. We can get information about how long the screen's going to last. So we click it. It does 83% through the Reflect. That's incredible. So that is not a bulky Espeon, and we actually see him set up the Light Screen and that his Light Clay got knocked off. So we are going to U-turn, take out the Espeon, and I'm like, all right, 5 turns of Reflect, 4 turns of Light Screen since I knocked off the Light Clay in between those two. So here we go. Let's figure out how to stall this out. Let's just go out right into Coco at this point, so that I can threaten basically, you know, him into going into certain things. He goes into the Exploud, and I'm like, I don't want to be in on the Exploud. Electrium Z doesn't even kill through the Reflect, so I'm not even going to stay in on this thing. I need that to be healthy. Go out into my Incineroar, and we see that he is, I mean, we saw he was specs earlier, but we see how much damage. We see how much damage he's doing with the Boom Burst. 72% to my Incineroar through the Assault Vest, which is absolutely absurd. So I'm going to fake out to stall out another turn of the Reflect here, because I really just need him to be, or need the Reflect to be basically gone, so that I can get through it, and the Light Screen will go away on its own time, since I'm using most of the physical attackers at this point. So we do get the flinch. We're down to, what is 1 turn, it didn't proc, but 1 turn of Light Screen and 2 turns of Reflect left. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just knock off his choice specs here so he's not as scary. Maybe he'll get fully paralyzed, and he doesn't, so Incineroar goes down. I'm like, all right, well, there goes my check to Klefki. That's unfortunate. And the Light Screen's gone, 1 turn of Reflect left. So I figure let's go into a special attacker at this point. And I have a prediction now I have to make. Rotom could come in here. Klefki could come in here. I don't see him going hard Torn at this point. Now, obviously, if he's going to go Torn, my play is Ice Beam. If he's going to go Rotom, my play is Sludge Wave. If he's going to go Klefki, my play is Earth Power. And it's sort of just like, what do I think he's going to do? He's also paralyzed. Maybe he just stays in. And at that point, I figure letting Klefki in is a little bit better than letting Rotom in. So I'm going to click Sludge Wave, and down goes the Exploud. And we are able to take out a huge threat, so I don't have to worry too much about that anymore as his Reflect wears off at this point. Now, he goes out into his Rotom here, and I'm like, okay, I don't really want to stay in on the Rotom. I'm just going to go into Druddigon. I'm just going to take any hit from the Rotom, and he goes for Light Screen. And at this point, I was like, this is me in real life. I mean, I don't have a video of it, but like, just picture basically what happens when I'm live comming these, or not live comming, but like playing these battles out. I'm literally just sitting here like, okay, so he's got the Rotom, he's doing like 30% with a Hydro Pump, and he's doing like 15% with a Volt Switch. So, okay, there's a light screen again. Playing around screens. I just sat there for a minute and I was like, yo, you've got to be kidding me. This man brings screens on Rotom and on Espeon. I was like, all right, cool. So there's the dual screens on the Rotom. I'm going to go for the Earthquake and actually critical hit the Rotom. 65% or 64% gone, which is amazing. And so we are going to be able to take out the Rotom at this point with another Earthquake, even through the Reflect, or maybe not take it out, but bring it down to where Sucker Punch will kill or 2 Earthquakes will kill. And I'm like, that's amazing. He's probably going to switch out at this point. I mean, if I didn't crit him, this would have been a harder prediction to make, but he might have gone for Willow or whatever. But at this point, I was like, he's probably not going to stay with his Rotom, and he's definitely not going to Zeraora if I'm clicking Earthquake, and he's definitely not going to Klefki if I'm clicking Earthquake. So he's going to go Torn here, and I'm going to predict his Torn switch in, and I'm going to click Glare. And if he stays in, fine. So he goes for the Volt Switch. You see it does 12%, and out comes the Tornadus, which gets Stealth Rocks, and we click Glare and hit that thing with the Para. So at this point, I'm like, well, Coco pretty much counters. If he wants to Hurricane me, fine. If he wants to go for like a Z-Fly, I can take that. So I'm going to go into Coco at this point, and we are going to be able to take whatever hit. But he makes the read this time, the call out, and he goes for the Sludge Wave and just bops my Coco. And I looked it up. That is a Choice Specs Tornadus. There's no way he kills if it's not. So he had Choice Specs Boom Burst on his Exploud and Choice Specs Tornadus as well. This guy was so prepped, so offensive, and that's the thing is like, how do I handle this? So I was like, okay, he's got specs, probably. He could technically be Expert Belt with like a modest nature and maybe kill. So I got into my Ditto here to kind of see what he is, and at this point I see his full moveset, which is Hurricane, it's Heat Wave, it's Dark Pulse, and it's Sludge Wave. And so I said he's definitely specs with that set. He's not going to be running Expert Belt. If he was Expert Belt, he'd run U-Turn. 100%. So he's definitely specs, and I know that I'm pretty confident about that. There's no reason to take a Sludge Wave with my Ditto, so I'm just going to double out into my Nidoqueen at this point. He's going to go for another Sludge Wave, and it's going to do 7%. That is a Choice Spec Sludge Wave from a Tornadus, but it is a especially defensive Nidoqueen. Now, Ice Beam was free there. Since he has the light screen up, I'm not really doing damage to anything anyway. So I go Ice Beam. Then I know if he goes into Rotom, even if I click Earth Power here, the Rotom will die to a Sludge Wave through the light screen, and I'm like, just keep switching. Stall out your own turns of screens. Maybe he thought I might be Scarfed or something. So I just go for the Sludge Wave and take out the Rotom there. And at this point, the light screen's gone. Klefki comes out. I'm like, cool, let me click Earth Power. He sets up a light screen. Again. And I was like, are you kidding me? This man has like hyper offense with 3 screeners. 3 of them. And the Rotom and the Espeon both had Light Clay. I haven't really revealed yet what the Klefki's item is, but are you serious? Okay, so we are 19 turns in, and I've had approximately 3 turns of attacks that haven't had screens up yet. Awesome. And the same Mon hasn't set them up twice. But we're just going to go for an Earth Power here. The Reflect's going to wear off. I figure he might set up another Reflect at this point. So I'm just going to go for another Earth Power to try to wear down the Klefki. And if the Torn comes in, it's paralyzed. I can Ice Beam, which even through the light screen is doing about 40 to 45%. So I'm going to 2-shot the Torn. So basically all I need to happen is to just hit my Ice Beam here, which I do, and I need him to get fully paralyzed. Oh, no, okay, he hits the Hurricane. Okay, fine, 53%. Oh! Now I have to play around with Confusion. Do I hit myself in Confusion? And if I do, and he goes for Hurricane and he connects again, then I die instead of taking out the Torn. Okay, well, now we've got to switch out our Nidoqueen, and I realize right here, right now, that the Electric Terrain has expired, and I never got my Electric Seed Unburden pop on my Hawlucha, so I'm like, well, that's sort of almost sackable at this point. So let me go into Hawlucha. Maybe he'll get full para'd. He actually goes to switch out into Klefki to try to reset up the Reflect here, and I'm like, oh, he's definitely going to try to reset up the Reflect here. Let me do a calc real quick. High Jump Kick does not kill a Klefki through a Reflect. So if he goes for a Thunder Wave, well, there's not much I could do about that, to be perfectly honest. We're already, up a creek right now in terms of our ability to get the item off and the speed boost. So if he goes for Thunder Wave, fine. That is what it is. I'm not gonna switch out into Nidoqueen right here and take a hit. Flash Cannon would do too much to Nidoqueen if he did predict that. If he doesn't, if he goes for the Reflect, then I get a free substitute off. He can't Thunder Wave me. I get a free Swords Dance, and then +2, I do kill the Klefki with a high jump kick. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's try that out. And if I'm behind a sub, the Zeraora can't kill me, and I outspeed the Thundurus, so, or the Tornadus. So he does set up the Reflect as I get the substitute off, and we are going to be able to see what Klefki's move of choice is as we go for the Swords Dance, and he is going to show me that he is Dazzling Gleam, which is going to break my substitute. Now I expect him to switch out at this point, or go for the Thunder Wave, so I click substitute again as he just goes for the Dazzling Gleam and tells me he's probably not going to switch out his Klefki, so I'm going to use that turn to kill the Klefki at this point. We do see, since the light screen got all the way up to 8 turns, that he is a Light Clay Klefki, so he's Light Clay Espeon, Light Clay Rotom, and Light Clay Klefki, which just is one of those, like, are you serious moments. How does this happen to me? So we do manage to take out the Klefki with a high jump kick, but now we are threatened by the Zeraora. And we don't have the Acrobatics boost, which is required to kill the Torn at this point. So I am going to expect him to go for an electric type attack, since I'm still out of range of some other stuff that the Zeraora would want to do, like close combat or knockoff. So I'm going to go into my Ditto at this point, expecting him to go for the Thunderbolt, and he actually goes for the Hidden Power, what I presume is Ice. At this point, I have Hidden Power Ice on my Ditto, and I see the Life Orb pop, and I see how much damage I did to Ditto, and obviously Ditto's base HP is pretty garbage. He's got the Reflect up for 4 more turns, so I'm like, alright, fine, let me just click Knockoff, get rid of the Life Orb, make this thing a little bit less threatening, see what he wants to do, and he actually goes for the Calm Mind, which I did see that he had, obviously, when I got my Ditto in. I saw that he was Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Ice, and Knockoff. I said Thunderbolt preemptively. I knew that he was special from having done this battle before, but normally I would expect him to go for Plasma Fists, obviously not Thunderbolt. So at this point, I'm like, okay, if he's going to set up, Ditto's my only possible check to this thing, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to switch out. There's 2 things he could do here. He has the knockoff. Maybe he's going to want to knock off my Choice Scarf, so that he, it's just basically a speed tie later. And maybe he's just going to want to go for another Calm Mind. Either way, I'm going to go out into Hawlucha. If he knockoffs, great. Hawlucha gets its Unburden to proc. And if he Calm Minds, then I need Ditto around for later. And both my Nidoqueen and my Druddigon have Sucker Punch, so those are much more valuable once the Reflect is gone. So I'm going to switch out my Ditto at this point and go out into my Hawlucha, which you are going to see. He's going to click Knockoff, which is going to proc the Unburden, even though I didn't get my item to actually be used. If you do knock off an item, it does proc Unburden. I do get the speed boost. There's 1 turn of Reflect left, as you see in the corner, so I figure I've got 35%. I'm going to go for a substitute to stall at the last turn of Reflect, since I don't kill with a high jump kick right now. He's going to show me the Hidden Power, which again I think is Ice, and I am going to go for a high jump kick at this point, which is going to take out the Zeraora. And we now have our item knocked off as well, which means Acrobatics gets boosted, which means when the Torn comes out, the Hawlucha is going to be able to click Acrobatics and take out the Torn. And so, in one of the weirdest, most prediction-ridden, chaotic battles that had a decent amount of hacks for a battle with very little hacks. I mean, I feel like there was only a couple of moments in which there was hacks, but every single hacks felt like it mattered a lot, between the crit on the Rotom, the confusion on the Hurricane, like everything felt like it mattered, whereas I didn't get like any para hacks except for that first turn with the Espeon, which I don't think was too important in all honesty. And yeah, so this battle was crazy. It didn't feel like a 4-0 at all. Like, yes, the score says 4-0, but none of my Mons are really that healthy. I mean, I think Ditto could have come in late game and Hidden Power Ice if he'd had enough boosts on his Zeraora. I could have brought in the Ditto, Hidden Power Iced, and then Sucker Punched to kill the Zeraora with the Druddigon first, then the Nidoqueen, which could have then killed the Torn, which I think would have been like the way I would have done that had he not gone straight for a knockoff on my Hawlucha. So I think that late game I still had a chance to win that, but it was very, very close and very chaotic. And yes, the score says 4-0, but this didn't feel like it. So these teams, like I said in the team builder, these teams matched up in a really strange way in which either of us could have definitely won this match. But the triple dual screeners with Light Clay was something that I was like, okay, Light Clay Klefki sucks, but I did not expect him to go Light Clay Espeon and Light Clay Rotom and Light Clay Klefki, all with both screens. But he was doing that, and it almost worked. I didn't have any Brick Break on my team, so shoutouts to the prep there, but holy cow, that was absurd. So anyway, that is going to do it for our Week 5 battle. We do manage to pull off a W here, which is sort of unexpected in a lot of ways. Next week, we're going to take on Jacob. I think it's, yeah, and the Green Bay Pikachus, who we played in the IBL and got stomped by a Como-O at the time. So he doesn't have Como-O this time, but we'll see how that goes. He's also having an incredible season right now, so we'll see how all of this shapes up. Thank you all so much for watching. I am certainly enjoying this ride through the APA Evolution League. It is a league filled with incredible battlers and is very cruel to anybody who's not really ready for this kind of competition level and is really keeping me on my toes right now. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.